Good morning. This is the time and place for the Planning Hearing Officer hearing of September 24th, 2024. My name is Roger Kiesel, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. The Planning Hearing Officer meeting is being broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable Channel 6 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire, iOS and Android devices using a free app called Cablecast. Choose Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city's website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. For public comment and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. We do have two cases this morning involving discretionary permit applications. The hearing will proceed as follows, or the hearings will proceed as follows. First, I will read the description of the application or request. Then I will read the reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to call on to present, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time period. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be called on to give comments, again clearly stating their name within a 3-minute time period. Finally, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments, if desired, in response to testimony given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time period. The hearing will then be closed and taken under submission. Findings. If the findings presented in the application and at the hearing meet the required findings set forth in the municipal code, then the project can either be approved or approved with conditions. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Decision. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Records of decisions for all projects will be posted online on the Planning Division website. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal must file using the city's online permit portal. For additional information regarding the appeal process and submittal, contact the case planner. Public notices. Notices for this hearing were accomplished by use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners and occupants within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning officer hearing are being televised live and may be viewed online on the city's website. So we will start with the first case on the agenda. The address is 1719 Gladys Drive. It is a setback and standards variance, case number PVAR 003539-2024, and administrative exception, case number PAE -0050000-2025. And this variance and administrative application, or administrative exception applications are for a proposed new single-family residence. The residence is about 2,200 square feet. They're requesting setback and standard variances and administrative exceptions to allow a 3-story single-family house with an attached 2-car garage on a vacant 5,234 square foot hillside lot in the R1R zone. And let me go to the whether there were any comments. Okay, so regarding comments from other city departments, the Public Works, Traffic and Engineering and Development sections provided input regarding the driveway and proposed structures located in the right-of-way. And the project plans have been revised in response to their feedback. All other comments from other city departments were standard comments and conditions required basically for all projects. So with that, I should say, we also have 2 letters regarding this project. The first letter expressed concerns regarding the project for safety risk from falling debris reasons, slope stability and excavation concerns, construction access and safety. They questioned the CEQA exemption regarding the project. They had concerns about debris control and then the broader precedent of potentially allowing the applicant's requests for, lot size, house size, height, and setbacks. The second letter also expressed concerns, and they are also opposed to the variance requests and the administrative exception requests. There were public safety concerns, environmental impact concerns. They cite inconsistencies with the Hillside Design Guideline goals. And then additional safety and environmental risks. So did we receive any other letters? Just those 2?
I did not receive any other public comment besides what you have in front of you this morning.
Thank you. I'm just going to turn it over to Nick to present the case.
Thank you, Roger. Good morning. My name is Nicola Hladi. I'm a senior planner with the Glendale Planning Division. As introduced by the planning hearing officer, the item before us tonight, or this morning, is 1719 Gladys Drive, where the applicant has requested setback and standards variances and administrative exception with the below case numbers PVAR 003539-2024 and PAE for the administrative exception 005000-2025. In my presentation, I will describe the project, describe the requested variances, and then summarize the draft findings that were made in the staff report and in the attached exhibit. And I'll also be available to answer any questions from the planning hearing officer or the public. So I'll start with the project description. The project proposal is to construct a 2,216 square foot, 3-story, single-family house with an attached 2-car garage on a vacant 523 square foot hillside lot in the R1R restricted residential zone and in the floor area District 1. I'm going to provide detail on the requested variances and administrative exceptions, but the standards variances are for minimum lot size, floor area ratio, and reduced driveway length, a setback variance request for a reduced front setback, and administrative exception requests for an increase in maximum building height and a reduction in interior setbacks. For the setbacks and standards variances. So there's a lot size variance. The minimum required lot size for new development in the R1R zone for new residential development is 7,500 square feet. Again, as noted, the lot size at 1719 Gladys is 234 square feet. The second variance request is for floor area. The maximum allowable floor area in the Height District 1 is 0.3, so 30% of the lot size, or 1,572 square feet. The applicant is proposing to construct a new residence with a floor area of 2,216 square feet, or an FAR of 0.42. The front setback variance, the front setback requirement in the R1R zone is 15-foot front setback requirement. The applicant is proposing to construct the residence with a minimum 5'6" street front setback. So that's the minimum setback. There's a curved property line, so the setback is greater at other parts of the home. And also related to that front setback requirement, to construct a house with a minimum driveway length of 5'6", the minimum driveway length in the R1R zone is 18 feet. So those are the variances. And then the administrative exceptions. The administrative exceptions allow for a deviation of up to 20%. So that is the limit of what can be approved with an administrative exception. In this case, the administrative exception is requested for height. The maximum building height in the R1R zone is 32 feet for buildings with a flat roof. The applicant is proposing a house with a total height of 38 feet. And then the interior setback requirement for the R1R zone is 10 feet. The applicant has requested a reduction to allow for reduced interior setbacks of 7 foot, a minimum of 7 foot 9 inches along the interior, eastern, and western property lines. So I'll walk through all of these various requests in detail in my presentation after I describe the project a little bit more. Before I do that, I just wanted to quickly summarize the required findings for both the variance and an administrative exception, as they are slightly different. The required findings of fact for a variance are as follows: that the strict application of the provisions of any such ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. Secondly, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or its intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. That the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property improvements in the zone. And that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. So those are the findings of fact for a variance. For an administrative exception, which again is limited to 20% deviation, the findings are slightly different. Firstly, for the administrative exception, the granting of the exception will result in design improvements or there are space restrictions on site which preclude full compliance with code requirements without hardship. Secondly, the granting of the exception with any conditions opposed will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property improvements in the neighborhood or zone in which it's located. And then third, the granting of the exception will not be contrary to the objectives of the applicable regulations. I also want to point out, I just want to state that from a perspective of CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, staff finds that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review as a Class 3 new construction or conversion of small structures per Section 15303A of the state CEQA guidelines, because the project involves the construction of one single-family residence on a lot that's zoned for single-family residential use. So with all that out of the way, I'll describe the project and then go into the variances and the required findings. So the project is located in the College Hills neighborhood on Gladys Drive, which is a meandering hillside road in the R1R1 Height District. To the north are properties also in the same zone with hillsides under the special recreation zoning further to the north. This is a 500-foot radius of the site. So generally, the 500-foot radius site is comprised by hillside development in the same R1R Height District 1 zone. So here it is looking from an aerial view. So you can see the 2 freeway to the east, hillside residential neighborhoods to the west and south, and then undeveloped open space to the north. On Gladys Drive, this is the terminus of Gladys Drive. The street actually does connect, but it's gated off here, so it essentially functions as a no outlet street. And the south side of Gladys Drive is developed with a number of other single-family homes, which are built into the downslope of Gladys Drive, with some additional development to the north, with lots that don't front onto Gladys Drive. So lots that front onto Gladys Drive are these ones that we see here on the south side of Gladys Drive, at least for this stretch of Gladys Drive. And here are some photos. So the subject property at 1719 Gladys Drive was developed with a single-family home of about 1,200 square feet. That was built in 1964. It burned down in a fire in the late 80s. What remains is the foundation and a freestanding wall associated with that demolished structure, that destroyed structure. There hasn't been any development on the lot since then. So here's an isometric view of the proposed project once sort of looking from Gladys Drive, where the project will maintain a one-story appearance consistent with the other homes on the street, and then with the bulk of the structure and the home terracing downwards with the hillside, which features a considerably steep slope. Which I'll show you on a topographic survey. But here we have an overhead aerial view. So here we can sort of see the setbacks, the driveway length, the interior setbacks. The red line here is the 10-foot setback. The orange line is the 20% reduced 8-foot setback. The red line here is the minimum front setback line that's established at 5'6", and the blue line is the property line. So there is a right-of-way dimension of 12'6". So the home's existing driveways and the proposed driveways home, a good portion of it is in the public right-of-way before Gladys Drive starts 12 feet away from the property lines of the homes. So we have the garage level, the Gladys Drive garage level, which is only that, is the garage, and then entry staircase providing access to the front entrance, which is somewhat depressed into the hillside. Then we have the first level where you sort of walk into the lobby. You have a living room, kitchen, dining room, and family room, 2 balconies facing south, taking advantage of the downslope views that are provided. And then the lower level, so the third story, is where there are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, laundry room, and then 2 other balconies connected off of those bedrooms. Again, so on the top side of the screen here, we have what the project would look like from Gladys Drive, maintaining that one-story appearance consistent with existing homes. Here you can see the lowered entryway that provides access to that level 1, which you reach by a set of downward staircases. And then you have the south elevation where you can see the 2 stories and the third garage level built into the slope. And here we have the side profile views where you can see how the building has been terraced to meet the hillside. We have the driveway, which is essentially a bridge that spans the distance between the street and the beginning of the building. And then you can see some of those balconies and architectural elements that are proposed here. So I'll start, and again, just show you the isometric views one more time now that I've walked you through all of the floor plans. Here's a topographic survey of the site. So the site has an average current slope of 70%, steeply sloping site. That's similar to what exists on the south side of Gladys Drive and other residential properties in the near vicinity. There you can see that existing foundation. You can see the edge of Gladys Drive here and the full width of the street. So steeply sloping lot, as is apparent from the photos and from the diagrams I've showed you. Now let me discuss the variance requests. The first one I'll discuss is the lot size variance. So again, just to reiterate, the request is to build a single-family home on a lot That's 5,234 square feet, whereas the code requires 7,500 square feet of lot area for undeveloped parcels in the R1R zone. And I'll briefly summarize the variance justification in my presentation here, and they're set forth in greater detail in the staff report. So the lot was originally subdivided in 1926 pursuant to the applicable requirements. There aren't opportunities to expand the lot to meet that 7,500 square feet. The adjacent properties are developed. The downslope property on Luring Drive, in order to do a lot line adjustment to add square footage to the lot on Gladys Drive, would result in a substandard lot of the Luring Drive below, which eliminates that option. And then a voluntary merger to create one property would create a through lot, which is also prohibited in the city subdivision ordinance in the R1R zone. So those opportunities do not exist. As I mentioned, the home was previously developed with, the property was previously developed with a 12,000 square foot home that was destroyed by fire in the 1980s. So this home was previously developed with a home prior to the implementation of that 7,500 square foot lot standard. And as I noted in the variance findings earlier, the findings require that we demonstrate that the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare, and it won't be contrary to the objectives of the zoning ordinance and that minimum lot size requirement. So the College Hill neighborhood is the neighborhood that this property is located, has a number of smaller lots that are developed with single-family residences. So there are 47 lots in the 500-foot radius of the site, which I showed on the map earlier. Of those 47 lots, 16 are smaller than 7,500 square feet. So of those 16 lots, half of them are developed with a home. So I just want to sort of describe what's on these substandard lots. So the substandard lots, the lot size of those 8 developed lots range from 4,389 square feet to 6,386 square feet, and their average size is 559 square feet, so slightly larger than the size of the subject lot in question here. And on those 8 developed substandard lots, there are homes that range in size from 1,442 square feet to 3,558 square feet, with an average home size of 2,199 square feet, which is generally consistent with what's being proposed here, a 2,200 square foot home, which allowed staff to conclude that the development of the home on this substandard lot would generally be consistent with what exists in the near vicinity. Those homes exist without detriment to surrounding properties. It's a residential hillside neighborhood, and they're consistent with the zoning court ordinance. Which is why the staff believes that the lot size variance findings can be made as set forth in the exhibit. I'll move on to the floor area variance. Again, just to reiterate the request to build a home of 2,216 square feet with an FAR of 0.42, whereas what's allowed by right is a 0.30 lot size, or 1,572 square feet. They're requesting a 41% increase. Generally speaking, the intent of the code's development standards for the R1R zones is to assure adequate levels of light, air, and density and development in a given zone. In the case of the R1R zone, the defining features of those zones are valuable open space, physical features, and scenic resources, while also allowing for the reasonable beneficial use of the property through the development of single-family homes, like what's proposed here. Allowable floor area is dictated by the size of the lot, which is why we have a 1,572 square foot maximum on the subject property. And without the approval of the variance, the applicant would be limited to home size that is generally inconsistent with the size of the homes around it, including those on substandard lots. Furthermore, other more recently developed homes on substandard lots, as well as homes on standard lots, receive variance approval. An example is 1652 Gladys Drive, 3,500 square foot home that was built in 1992. Another example cited in the staff report is 1664 Gladys Drive, a 3,000 square foot home that is over the 0.30 standard. So those are referenced here. And again, the 2,216 square foot home is generally consistent with existing homes in the 500-foot radius, including those on substandard and standard lots that are greater than 7,500 square feet. And again, this used to have a home, a smaller home that was built prior to the implementation of the 0.30 standard. And the staff report concludes that the approval of the floor area variance would result in development that is consistent with surrounding development, appropriate for the R1R zone, and consistent with the hillside development review criteria and the hillside design guidelines. For the public's benefit, this is a variance hearing for development standards. The project is still subject to full design review board review, which will be a public hearing should this project move forward. And then next I'll move on to the front setback and the driveway variances. These are related, so I'm going to talk about them together. Again, just to reiterate the request, the proposal is to construct a new single-family residence with a minimum 5'6" street front building setback, whereas 15 feet is required, and a minimum 5'6" driveway length, whereas 18 feet is required. These images show the front setback encroachments. So again, the red line is that minimum 5'6", so and the blue line is the property line. So that's a 5'6" distance between the blue line and the red line here, as shown on these diagrams. So the minimum setback is 5'6". As the property line curves, the setback increases to 15 feet. And the driveway length is measured from the property line to the opening of the garage. So that's where we have that 5'6" dimension. The driveway is functionally quite a bit longer as you measure it to the edge of the street, to the garage opening. There is a precedent for reduced driveway length and front setback in this neighborhood. Complying with the setback and driveway length requirements on a steeply sloping lot such as this one and on the neighboring lots would require an increase in height. As you push the home further into the slope, the building gets taller as you go further down the slope. Variances have been approved for a number of properties, including 1727 Gladys, 1717 Gladys, 1681 Gladys, 1664 Gladys, which approved either 0 setbacks or setbacks at 5 feet. So this is, consistent with prevailing setbacks in the neighborhood, which is what the code actually wants the reviewing body to do in reviewing projects such as this one. And we can find that approval of the requested front setback and driveway variances would result in a development that's consistent with the development pattern of the neighborhood. That Gladys Drive streetscape has been established based off prior variance approvals for properties having similar site characteristics where homes are located near the street with reduced setbacks to push the building closer to the street, build it into the slope, and reduce the height and the overall perceived massing when you look at it from the downslope side. Furthermore, the total functional driveway length would be 18 feet, which staff provides for ample room for vehicles to enter and exit into the garage. So it's not a 5'6" driveway where the driveway just ends at 5'6". And we can find that the approval of the variance for reduced street front setback and driveway is consistent with the objective of the street front setback requirement to maintain an attractive streetscape rhythm and maintain, again, a consistent rhythm across the streetscape. So those are the variance requests. Now I'll move on to the administrative exception requests. Again, there's a difference in the findings that need to be made between these two, and that's based off the fact that the administrative exception only provides for a deviation of up to 20%. So again, the applicant is proposing a house that's 38 feet tall, as measured from the very bottom of the pylons that support the bottom of the proposed home, where it comes out of the ground, to the very top of the flat roof, which is the top of the garage. So this is the section view, which kind of shows you through the slice of the home. And again, due to the steep slope, again, the slope and the size of the home and the size of the lot are the general reason why these requests have been made. The 71% slope presents a challenge in conforming with the maximum building height standard. The building is already pushed close to the front of the property, consistent with the existing home. So that's in an effort to reduce the height and reduce the perceived mass of the building poking out of the side of the hillside. The building does step down to follow the slope, as shown here, and features floor-to-ceiling heights that are typical of this kind of development. So at its highest point in the bedroom, we have an 11'2" floor-to-ceiling height, 9 feet to 8 feet elsewhere, 8 feet in the garage. So fairly typical floor-to-ceiling heights. So to have it meet the 32-foot height maximum would either necessitate further reducing the front setback and driveway length, reducing floor-to-ceiling heights, cutting further into the existing slope, or some combination of these three options. Staff finds that none of these approaches would result in an improved design, and that from the perspective of height, the project does strike a good balance in providing a square footage that's consistent with the neighborhood in a manner that's consistent with the typical development pattern on Gladys Drive, and it's within that 20% height limit. On interior setbacks, the request, again, just to reiterate, is to construct the new single-family residence with reduced interior setbacks of minimum of 7 feet 9 inches, whereas 10 feet is required. So a 20% decrease in 10 feet is 8 feet. Again, I'm circling here the very minor encroachments into the required setback that are being proposed here. So with the 20% reduction, we have an 8-foot setback. What's projecting into that setback is really just the edges of the walls here. This is a fireplace with some bay windows that slightly project into the required 10-foot setback. On this side, you can see that only this corner of the home projects into any closer than 10 feet from the side property line. This is a roof overhang eave for solar protection. This is the edge of planter adjacent to the balcony, and then a tiny corner of this roof eave overhang projects an additional 3 inches into the setback. A little bit wonky, but the code allows for minor projections into the setback for things like eaves and fireplaces. So the corner of this eave projects a few inches into the setback, and the outside of this fireplace projects an additional few inches into the required setback. So I just wanted to be very clear about where those setback encroachments are. In terms of the findings, the lot is relatively narrow. It's 58 feet at the street frontage, and it narrows to 50 feet at the rear of the lot. So that 10-foot setback requirement on each side does eat up a lot of the developable area of the lot by approximately 40%. From the perspective of compatibility and neighborhood fit and fit with the zoning ordinance, staff finds that the reduction of the setbacks does provide for an appropriate fit, allows for the development of a reasonable use, the single-family residence. And there's also a setback for reduced interior setbacks. Both of the homes on either side of this one maintain reduced interior setbacks that are less than what's being proposed here. So we can find that the minor reduction in setbacks does continue to foster compatibility, light, air, and ventilation between the buildings, visual relief, and also privacy. So it is for those reasons that staff finds that the findings for the administrative exception for both height and interior setbacks can be met. So that concludes my presentation. I just want to summarize staff's recommendation as noted in the staff report. It's for the approval of the requested standards and setbacks variances and of the requested administrative exception with the conditions subject with conditions in the exhibit and subject to the draft findings that are also in the exhibit. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the planning hearing officer or other ones that may come up.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to start calling speakers for the case. I'll take the applicant first, Vicky Barbieri. You have 15 minutes, yes.
Good morning. I'm Vicky Barbieri. I'm the designer of the project, and I have to thank so much to my planner, Nick, because without his guidance, I don't know if we will get to all these details. I think his description has been a master. I don't think I like to add really anything to that.
Okay.
But I hear that there are some people, maybe neighbors, who are worried about the stability of the lot or the sleeping rocks from the lot. When we get involved, I've been an architect for 50 years, and hillsides are one of the most difficult lots or situation to design a house with all the conditions that the city of Glendale require. Then before even we got involved to this point, way before, we hired an engineer to do the soil and geological in the lot to see if this would be stable enough to support a new structure. And at the same time, in the middle of the process of the design, we hired the engineer, Jeff Roberts, who preliminary guide us to what we can do and where cases would be and where the beams would it be, then I want to assure the concern of the people in reference to the construction of this house. Everything will be under codes and under requirements, and I don't want them to feel that we are trying to build something in the hill without not knowing what we do. That it will be the reference, the concern of my neighbors is what really concerned me in reference to the description of what we are doing. I don't think it's anything that I can add, and I would like Mr. Kiso, if he will have questions for me that I can clarify.
Great, thank you. I do have some questions. They may be kind of in random order. Let me clarify, or make sure, the driveway leading from the street to the house, that is a bridge. It's not being filled in with dirt or anything? It's.
At this moment, it's a bridge.
Okay. It looks like, and Nick, if you could put up one of the drawings that show the trash enclosures, maybe from the front, from the street view. How do the trash enclosures work? And it looks like they're in the setback, and what are your thoughts on those?
Well, my thought is that I don't like it where it's located. Originally, we couldn't find where because we have setbacks on each side, the minimum setback in the front. But I re-studied these days the location. I like to eliminate it there because it's in front of the entry of the house and all of this. And studying the different of elevations in between the floor of the garage and the floor below, the thank you is 11 feet long, 11 feet high. I can extend the garage to the rear enough 3 feet by maybe 7 or 8 feet to locate the 3 trashes that we need to have by ordinance.
Okay, so if these series of variances and administrative exceptions gets approved, we can expect a modification to the design that slightly increases the garage area and eliminates the garbage cans in front of the front
Absolutely.
door.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Sorry. Is there a purpose to some of the split level design in the house? I noticed when you walk into the house, you're at one level, and then I think you walk up or down a couple steps to the living room, and then from the living room, dining room, kitchen, you walk a couple steps down to the family room.
Yes.
Is there a purpose to that?
Well, the house has many levels because the lot is sloped to the back of the lot, and at the same time kind of undulate on the side of the lot. Then there are areas on the right side, if I look straight to the lot, that are lower than the one to the left. Then the idea is to follow the terrain as much as possible, and should it be considered under the design ordinance for the hillside. Then, and at the same time, the change of level scale the facades in such a way that eliminate a massive view of this small structure. And because of that reason is where we are playing with different elevations following the contours of the land.
Okay. What would happen if you eliminated the split level and just had a traditional 3-story house?
I think it will become a bulky figure. It will lose architectural interest. And what we try to do is kind of minimize the land that surround us in the mountains. Nothing is completely straight, and this is what we try to do. Move it along, following the contour. We selected materials that match practically exactly to the hill, natural, stone, wood. We disturb the less is possible the natural landscaping that exists in the hill, and this is why we never contemplated to design a typical house, a 1 or 2 level straight.
Okay. Nick, can you actually put up the site plan? Great, great, thank you. So, if you look at the right side of the site plan, right adjacent to Gladys Drive, a lot of that area is paved. And a lot of that area that just actually dawned on me is in the public right-of-way. The city of Glendale limits driveways to just accessing the garage. And then if you have a pedestrian access, there needs to be a landscape separation between the garage and the walkway. So in this instance, there'll need to be some modifications to that. Do you anticipate any issues with having to comply with that?
Well, I wouldn't be able to fulfill that requirement if the city expects certain dimensions in the, what you call the landscaping area in between the driveway to the garage and the access to the house. I can have a planter, maybe 2 feet wide or 3 feet wide, but I cannot have an extended landscaping because remember that all that front area is in the air. There is no land
Yes, yeah,
below.
okay, I got it.
The only way for me it will be, and I'd be glad to do that, is to have a real planter in the front.
Okay, on the lower part of the driveway, where there's the retaining wall there, right there, thanks. Is there a reason why that can't be moved up to sort of align with the south or the lower wall of the garage? Look at the arrow. I know I'm not explaining this well. But
Walk up there.
The idea is to eliminate.
okay, I need you to speak at the microphone though.
Oh,
Sorry,
I talked over there.
you're not loud enough.
Okay, I'm going to be loud. Eliminating the trash, we don't need this area at all.
Okay.
This drive-
Ms. Barbieri, you do need to talk in the mic. It's hard to believe you're not loud enough.
Okay.
Yeah. No, let's go back to the mic.
Okay.
Juan, you can, as long as you don't talk, you can,
She just can't see that far.
but maybe you can be her eyes if that's helpful. Or you can talk at the mic.
I'm just talking about this wall.
Yes.
in line with this wall? That's his question.
So Juan, can you actually say that in the mic?
I'm gonna have her answer you at the mic.
Okay, okay.
This is the access to the stairway. This is where I built this.
Let's go to the microphone and have that conversation.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I have like a triangle
Yeah,
area
yeah,
that exceed the width of the driveway, because that is my access to the stairs coming down. What
Yeah.
I mean in that triangle, I can leave just maybe a 3 feet walkway, and all the rest could be a huge planter.
Actually, if I'm understanding what you just explained, you may not even need that planter if the walkway comes directly from the driveway and then goes sort of in the same direction, location as you have now.
The only problem is in between the edge of the driveway and the edge of the walkway is going to be a hole. This is why I'm proposed to do there a planter at the same level, because I'm like 7 or 8 feet low at this point.
Well, I'm not sure I quite understand that, but a planter may be okay where that driveway extension is not. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes
Okay,
sense.
Okay,
That's good.
Yeah.
One is the driveway, then is a planter, and then it's just a walkway to the stairs coming down.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We just, as it's currently proposed, it really doesn't comply with code. And that's why we need to figure out a way to modify it to make sure it does.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
we'll do that with Nick approval.
All right. Let's see. Would reducing the height, the floor to ceiling height in the primary bedroom from 11 to 9, would that influence the overall height any? Because 11 feet high is fairly high for a relatively small room.
It's all that area, and this is where the secondary bathroom is, and the hallway is where I can extend the garage floor to use that extension as a trash area. And the other the rooms are all 9 feet high. The extra high in this case is because where is located the air conditioning system, and we would like to use that area where distribute the conducts and don't be exposed or having to build special frames to guide the air conditioning system.
So I may be not understanding it correctly, but you're saying that the 11-foot floor to ceiling height is actually going to be lower because you've got conduit
Exactly.
for the heat and air and everything else?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So it's really,
Maybe it's going to be 9.
okay, all right.
All the ceilings are 9 or more, or 8 in the garage.
Yeah, yeah, okay. The bay window in the family room, is that actually a bay window or is it actually floor area?
No, it's only extends 6 inches from the main wall.
Yeah,
Extends 6 inches just to give it a feeling of a bay window, but in reality it's not.
well, I guess what I'm asking is, does that projection go all the way to the floor, so it's actually floor area? Or is it like what I would look at as a traditional bay window that comes up from the floor and just sort of projects out?
Doesn't come to the floor because it's going to be in the fireplace, in front of the fireplace, a whole extended plane or bench
Okay.
that is maybe 15 feet high from the floor, and the bay window, the glass will finish in that platform.
Okay, all right. And that wall there, the wall that projects in the family room,
Yes.
what's the setback there? Is it
Well, I
8
think was
feet?
7, 9. 8 feet will be the 20% allow, and we are at 7, 9.
So that's the edge of the fireplace, correct? The
Yes.
far edge. So that would be a permitted projection, but the actual wall of the family room,
No, the wall of the family room
Is-
is in the 10 feet setback.
is at 10 feet?
Yes.
Can I clarify?
yeah.
So the red line here is the 10-foot setback.
Okay.
So this wall, let's call it 6 inches.
Okay.
Plus the median or whatever, the split difference of this wall
Right.
is the extent of the encroachment for the
Okay. And that's,
room with windows. So this is, probably at 9 feet, right?
okay,
Because it's less than 10, but more than 8.
okay. And so if it's at 9 feet, the encroachment into the setback on the other side, is that, what is that? What's the minimum setback there?
I think it was 9 inches.
9 feet?
So this diagram doesn't show it. So here you can see what encroaches into that 10-foot setback plane.
Okay.
Small edge of the staircase, entry staircase here. And then the planter on the balcony of the first floor, on this floor. If we go down to the next floor, there's a eave overhang over the windows in that corner. The very corner of that eave overhang projects to that 7'9".
Okay.
And again, as a permitted encroachment into the reduced setback.
Right.
But if I go down to the
So it's
lowest level, similarly, just the corner of the planter would encroach into on the south side.
okay. So it sounds like while the request is for a 20% deviation from 10-foot interior setback to 8 foot, that's really probably more generous than it needs to be.
Yeah, we are
Does that-
we are not using the 20%. We are only maybe 9 inches of the planter and the
Right.
roof. We are not
But-
using the 20%.
I guess, if we now consider 8 feet the new setback, then there is language in the code that allows for projections into that setback. A fireplace is one of them.
Yes.
Eaves are one of them. I don't know that planters are, but that may be why the 8-foot setback is requested.
The planter does not extend any closer than 8 feet, right? So
Okay.
the planter is between the 10 and the 8.
Okay, so that, what is that dimension roughly? It looks,
9 inches, I think.
yeah, it looks kind of split between the 10 and the 8, so let's call it 9. Okay, so again, it sounds like if the setback variance was for 9 feet instead of 8 feet, you would meet that, and then the projections like eaves, like fireplaces, you'd still be fine with that as well.
Okay.
Okay. That was kind of a clarifying question for me.
And it's an admin exception for the interior setbacks, not a variance.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just wanted to make
Sorry
that
about that.
distinction.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Okay. I guess, I mean, there are a couple variances, there are a couple administrative exceptions. In all honesty, the one I have the biggest concern about is the request to exceed FAR. So what have you done, or what could you do to reduce the size of the house to better comply with, better comply with the FAR standards? If you could explain your thought process there, what have you done, that would be great. And then with that, if you could reiterate what those what the findings are that would allow me to grant that, that would also be helpful.
Okay, if we start with the concept of the design of the house to come down the hill, and a hill that is 79% degree, as Mr. Lombard, the survey, has determined in his plans, and in a lot that I have to leave 10 feet in each side, what it gave me maybe 35 feet in width. The idea to scale down the house, down the hill, is, I think, the only possibility that we have first. And second one, I really agree with the city concept that is taking consideration the topography of the lots and the mass of the building, the location on the side, follow the contours of the hill. Due to the enormous slope that you can see in the plans, to when I scale down each floor down the hill, it produced voids, spaces unused in between the structure and the dirt. During the process, long process to do this, we can see in our sections that describe where the house could be and where the grades are, we discover that underneath the garage become a really big void, because if I didn't consider the scale down of the house and I stack the house all against the front setback, all the concept about a scale down the structure following the contours will be completely destroyed, and it will be just a typical tower structure in the hill, where I personally don't agree, and I don't think the city is very happy about that. When we did that, I discovered that I have this enormous void underneath the garage. And due to the house without that space become very small, smaller than any other sizes of houses around it, like Nick described, I said, well, if we just penetrate the ground close to the front of the garage a little bit more, I can have that whole space that is so useful for such a small house at 8 feet high to be as a real family room. When in other case, the family who's going to live there is not going to have it. The rooms are not big, the living room is not big, the kitchen is not big, nothing is big in 1,500 square feet. And to leave all that space just dead, I thought there was a negative effect to the purpose of the design of a structure in a hillside. And this is how we come up with that space. It's not we really planned it at the beginning, but was a conclusion of the way that we were designing the house. That's
Okay.
the truth.
Okay. So that was kind of I was going at it from this direction, you came at it from this direction. So, yeah, okay. So do you see any opportunities in reducing the size of this house that you came up with? And
I really don't, because if you take that space out, the house is very small.
Sure.
Look at the size of the bedrooms, look at the size of the common areas. The family doesn't have no place to be. This is when we discovered that space, I said, this is a solution. It's
Okay.
a solution architecturally, it's a solution for human beings. I said, why not to use it? We didn't expand the volume, everything stay inside the same volume. Then we didn't do nothing that affect the look or the exterior or the size of the volume, having that space available under the garage.
Okay. Nick, can you pull up the middle level floor plan? Yeah, that one right there. Are there any issues with reducing the size of the family room and pushing the dining room and kitchen in toward the street? That would reduce the size of the family room. And then, Nick, could you also pull up then the elevations? Thanks. And maybe, right. And then that would actually also then pull in the dining room kitchen elevation somewhat, so that the house, the outline of the house follows more with the topography. What's preventing you from doing that?
I think the concept, again, and I think I'm maybe repeating myself, the entry going down from the level of the street to the level of the living room is a big difference. Then the stairs or the access to go to that level needs a general space. You know, the length of the stairs is what we did here. And if I want to push this more toward the streets, what it means is we are going to have bigger retaining walls, and we are going to bring the house against the hill instead to floating on top of the hill, following the contour. That is what my vision it could be in response to your situation. In reference to if your problem is the square footage of the living room, we scale down the stairs, you can see it on the plans, where we leave a space that is less than 6 foot high. I moved not to do such a deep retaining wall, I move it 6 feet from the exterior where the exterior garage fall onto the ground. We move it 6 feet inside that space to make a smaller, the height of the retaining walls to be smaller. And I took 6 feet for the space that is projecting from the garage. And it's the mechanical room, and it's a storage room that is less than 6 feet high. Then if
The
you want
storage
me,
room is less than 6 feet high?
excuse me?
Did you just say the storage room is less than 6 feet high?
It's 6 foot high because the retaining wall that I moved 6 feet inside of the family room, let's put it this way, the retaining wall come to 6 feet high, go horizontally, and then go another 2-3 feet to give it 8 feet to the, or 9 to the family room. Then it's coming like a step. Then I didn't use all the space that is left by the projection of the garage. I used just in the 20 feet, I used 14 feet, and the other 6 feet, I did a mechanical room and a storage room.
Is the mechanical room part of the square footage that is cited on the plans?
Yes.
It is. How big is that room?
6 feet in width by, I will say, 13 feet long.
Okay, so it's roughly,
6 feet clear,
it's
13.
roughly 120 square feet.
could be.
And you mentioned it was floor to ceiling height in that area of 6 feet, correct?
Yes, sir.
Um,
You can see it in a section. If you cut through
Yeah.
that section, you can see the step on the retaining walls.
Okay,
Just to clarify, if I may, it's looks like it's 71 square foot mechanical room. There's an AC unit in there. There's a vent out to the side of the house, and I actually don't think it's counted in the. I don't believe it's counted in the 2216 because it's not a space meant for human habitation. It is a mechanical room. You can see it right here, in that space underneath the garage, like Ms. Barbieri is talking about. On the floor plan, let me point it out. It is located off the family room, and again, it's a mech room with storage. You know, no windows.
yep.
I still need to put a door, because listen, the door with a little step to come to that room.
Yeah,
I need a door.
you need to go to the microphone.
I want to put a pocket door.
Yeah?
And I need steps to climb 3 feet inside that space.
Right, I just wanted clarification on whether that little room was part of the square footage or not. Yeah, that's why I'm asking the questions. So,
It-
yeah,
I don't have the calculation in front of me, and we have done that a couple months ago.
Sure.
Till we get here.
yeah,
If I recall, I think the code said that if the room is less than 6 feet high and is considered storage or mechanical, that square footage should not be counted as habitable, but I'm not too sure.
right, and our code, the zoning code says if floor to ceiling height is less than 6 feet, it's not counted as floor area. And so that's why I asked that question.
I'm sorry.
Because, kind of regardless what that space is used for, if it's less than 6 feet high, it's not floor area, it's not included in FAR.
It's possible. I don't recall the calculations.
Okay, all right. I'm going to maybe ask the same question again, because I'm not totally, I'm not totally understanding your answer. But let me, I'm not going to talk. Let me step up to the screen, and then I'll do what you do.
Do you want me to follow you?
Yeah. Actually, no. Let me see if we can. Okay.
The garage above is this 20 by 20 square that you see. And this is the area, that is the garage. And this is a little bathroom.
Yes.
And this is
Let's move
the
back to the
storage area.
microphone. Let's move back.
We go.
So, I was kind of doing that movement. Why can't that area be moved toward the street 5 feet or 10 feet or something like that?
Okay.
That
then-
would, number one,
Yeah.
reduce the square footage, and number two, the bottom, the bedroom floor would be at this level. The slope goes like this.
Yes,
The bottom floor would be at this level, the living floor would be at this level, and the garage would be at this level. And so the profile would follow the slope more. Why can't that be done?
can we see a section? where
Sure.
we can see the grade and we can see the structure? Can we see a section?
Yeah, we'll
through
pull that
wherever
up.
you like to look at, through the stairs or through the garage? Because we have sections across in different positions in reference to the house. What would you like to see? Through the garage or through the stairs?
Well, I guess whatever section best demonstrates why you can't, or if you can, do what I was requesting or asking.
You want me to go there?
If you make sure you don't talk. Okay, so,
I just want to make sure she understands your question.
okay,
So
that's
let me-
fine.
Let me make sure I understand.
Yeah.
And see what you're proposing. The question this level, which is the kitchen, dining room, family room, be pushed into the hillside? Is that
Correct.
one of your proposals?
Either pushed more into the hillside or just made smaller and sort of squished, so there's actually less space.
So,
Yeah, I mean, you could keep that wall, but just make the the dining room, kitchen, family room smaller, and that way, as I mentioned before, the bedroom level projects furthest, and then it goes back and then back to follow the topography.
so this isn't lined up, this would be stepped back?
Correct, yeah,
So it's 1, 2, 3.
right.
Okay. That's the question. You can answer.
I don't see it. I don't think it's working.
Okay, I have a little situation, I'm trying to think fast. If you look the position of the stairs, the entry doesn't, and then the stairs coming down to the floor below, is the smaller space that I can use, because there is not a big hallway there. And after where the stairs start or finish is the living room. If I move the kitchen and the dining room underneath the garage, it will be two areas that are practically completely disconnected in between the living room and the dining room with the kitchen. I don't know if you can see that in the floor plan.
All right, come back to the microphone and explain what you were demonstrating with your hands.
I'm trying to say, if I move the dining room close to the front, I can't, because I need the stairs coming down from outside and the interior stairs going down to the bottom floor. then the position of the dining room for me is fixed. If I get the living room, if I get the dining room and the kitchen, and I put it underneath the garage, as you suggested, what do I do with the space that is left over now? The terrace? Because I don't want to put bedrooms at the same level of the entertainment or common area of the house. Then what do I do with that space? Do you follow me?
I do. The balcony or terrace gets bigger, or
Oh, it will
or the house just steps back more. There's a roof.
It's a gigantic roof. Because if I have bedroom, unless you want, if you prefer to have a completely vertical house, we can change it to vertical house. But it's
Well,
not,
okay.
under my understanding of the hillside design ordinance, to do a vertical house in a hill. I need to have some kind of guidance in this case, or scale down or vertical.
Well, I mean,
Because, look, this area is fixed,
yeah.
and if you don't accept to do this area will be here. And what do I do with all this empty space here? A gigantic terrace? And then this area is here, completely disconnected of the living room.
Okay, why don't you come back to the mic? Because we're testing the TV's patience, I think.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
But you see
Okay.
what is the dilemma?
I understand where you're coming from, but is there a midpoint where you get that profile like this, but you still have some connection between the living room, dining room, and kitchen? You know, maybe it doesn't go all the way, maybe it just goes some of the way. Okay.
You know, it need to be studied to get to this point.
Sure.
We go through enormous amount of studies. Another study that we need to go is this house is going to be supported by caissons, and that is kind of a structure limited you to the profile of the house. It's not like a house in flat land that you can go in any direction. When you build in caissons and great beams, a certain symmetry or certain regularity that the volume has to have.
Okay. All right, that concludes my questions of you. Let's,
Okay, thank you very much. I'm
sure,
sorry
thanks.
that I got to go back and forth. I
that's
don't see so
okay.
far.
That's okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we've got 4 speaker cards. Daniel Gangham?
Gone.
Gone.
It's like Vaughn with a G.
All right. You're up.
Kind of hoping someone else to go first.
Sorry.
No. Thank you for your time. Obviously, I'm one of the newer neighbors located near the building site, and I can appreciate it's a very special place. So I'm just here concerned sort of about the maintaining the homeostasis of the neighborhood, and I'm also down slope from the property. So my main concerns are safety. You know, it's the slope is considerable, so you know, I've got small kids. I know my neighbors do too, and I'd be worried about debris, sort of what sort of steps would be taken. It seems like a considerable structural project, you know, for safety reasons. And also in terms of construction, you know, how they would be accessing the lot, if they would be using my street, which is Luring, which leads up to the back of the lot. And then, let's see, what else? Oh, yes, and Barbara, you seem like a very lovely lady. I was just wondering, would you be living in the house, or are you developing it to sell it?
My son.
Your son, okay.
Let's try to limit cross
Oh,
communications.
okay, no, so
Okay.
that's one of the questions I had. And
Okay.
then, I guess, you know, and then finally, you know, we had spoke a couple of years ago, I'd submitted a variance, request, for, I'm a homeowner and I also own the adjacent lot, probably one of the last flat lots, in Glendale, I would assume. And, I was just asking for one single variance, and that was for, permission to build on a substandard lot, a lot that's actually larger than this. We did not even get to this point, and I was just here also to hope, you know, to understand the criteria, what's being applied here, you know, what sort of exemptions they're receiving, and, you know, see kind of what distinguishes that from the project that I had. Yeah, so, anyway,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Stephen Joyner? Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Thank you
Good.
for letting me have this time.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I guess variances are set up for us, for our safety, right? Like the laws that you guys come up with, they're important. And it seems like this one, there's a lot. And I think you said there's 20% deviation, you know, allowable. I don't know, from looking at all of this, yes, your height is there, but that's kind of it. Everything else, from what I saw online, you've got the lot size, it's 30% undersized. The FAR is 41% oversized. The setback in the front, 63% reduction. It's just a lot. Like, that's a really tiny road to go up. We're in a fire zone. What happens if there's a fire and we need like a big truck to turn around up there? Is that gonna be okay? We're right below that hill, and it is crazy steep. Like, it really is. To build on that, my goodness, I think that it looks like they're gonna extract maybe 230 cubic feet or yards of dirt out of there. When they do clearance on that property, there's always some kind of debris that falls down and, you know, like, hits our place. And yes, we have 2 kids as well, and we're just lucky to be in that neighborhood. We really are. It is a special neighborhood. Our kids are growing up in a wonderful place, and having something falling off of that hill that could jeopardize their safety, to me, is really concerning. We've had another neighbor who just did some basic work on their place, and a brick, maybe 6 inches, fell from their property, and the velocity that it came down hit our front and just shattered our window. It rocked the whole house. If one of us would have been outside, it would have been over. I mean, for real, we would have been seriously hurt. Right next door to that property, they did a little bit of work not too long ago, and I think they had a toilet that they took out and they set it on the hillside. The next day, that just slid down. Our car luckily wasn't in the way, but that hit the corner of our house, and that's my time. 30 seconds. Got it. Okay. I guess, yeah, the main concern for me is just the safety, how they're gonna build that, how much they're taking away. It just seems like a lot of house for a little footprint, you know? A lot of variances, and that's just gonna set up precedent, like he's couldn't do anything, but this is it just doesn't seems like a lot. It's a lot to go through. So,
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Tina Joyner.
Hi, thank you. I sent a letter as well, but I just wanted to sort of reiterate some concerns. I'm a resident that lives directly below the proposed property. And yeah, we're just really concerned about the safety risks and the long-term impacts. The CEQA exemption is, I'm not a planner, but it seems concerning. From what I understand, like it's categorically exempt under Class 3, but this isn't like a routine house on a flat lot. It's like an extreme slope, fire, seismic zone, massive grading. I don't think that the sections represented are accurate. Like it's over 70-foot slope, like it is a drop off. And so I think that, I feel that at a minimum, this project deserves a proper environmental review, not just like a blanket exemption. It's just, from what I understand, just looking online, the CEQA review is to analyze impacts of the environment like slope stability, trees, fire risk, traffic. Like, this is huge. For us, yeah, the safety risks of falling debris. A car has fallen down that vacant lot and directly in front of our home. Like it's terrifying, and the repercussions are just they're real. This is significant and it's real. So yeah, the safety, the slope stability, and excavation concerns. 230 cubic yards is like no joke. What happens to the stability of that hillside? Like already when it rains, when people do clearance, huge boulders come down, they've hit our cars. Like he was saying, we had a brick go through our front window. So it's just, these are real concerns. Also concerned about just like general construction access and safety. Gladys is a narrow, winding, dead-end street. Large construction vehicles and heavy equipment would have difficulty like maneuvering, creating risks for neighbors, property, emergency access. I know that there is an easement that possibly could allow the street to open, so it would be great if that's a possibility to be looked into. I know my time is almost up, but I guess what I just want to say is that granting 4 variances and administrative exceptions for residents on such an extreme slope sets a dangerous precedent for future hillside development. Variances are supposed to be rare exceptions, not routine workarounds. And for these reasons, I respectfully ask that you deny the requested variances and height exception. This project is too large, unstable, and risky for a hillside that's already proven dangerous. Public safety must come before private convenience. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, and then the final speaker is, looks like Janine Edwards.
Good morning, my name is Janine Edwards. I am the property owner for over 10 years at 1727 Gladys Drive. My home is the property directly west of 1719 Gladys Drive, or the property in question. I'm here this morning to ask the Planning Committee to deny any variances to build at 1719 Gladys Drive. The original home at 1719 Gladys Drive burnt down in June of 1990, and while several other homes involved in this fire rebuilt, this particular lot did not. To this day, 35 years later, the driveway and the base of the infrastructure of the home that burnt down is still embedded into the hillside. Based on geological assessments of properties in this area, the steep terrain cannot safely withstand the excavation required for a structure of this size, posing risk to adjacent properties, including mine. Gladys Drive is a narrow, almost single-lane road with a gate that's typically locked. I have personal experience with similar hillside constructions where my driveway was repeatedly blocked by vendors, workers parked on my property without permission, and I sustained property damage due to inadequate space for construction activities. The construction will disrupt essential services to our properties, including trash collection, deliveries, rideshare, and emergency access. This area is located in a legally designated wilderness area with posted restrictions, and construction would be disrupting this protected ecosystem. I have seen deer, coyotes, owls, bobcats on the lots areas we are discussing. The proposed project requires multiple variances, indicating it's incompatible with the established zoning and neighborhood character. The combination of geological instability, inadequate access, and environmental sensitivity makes this location unsuitable for such intensive development. I respectfully request that if the committee is inclined to approve this project, they require a detailed construction management plan that addresses parking access and property protection measures. However, given the constraints of this location, I believe such a plan would be extremely difficult to implement effectively. I urge you to deny these variance requests to protect public safety, neighborhood integrity, and adjacent property owners. This project simply asks for too many exceptions in a location with too many constraints. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else want to speak on this? No. Okay. Then the applicant has a 5-minute rebuttal period.
Okay. I hear all the concerns, and I just want to respond on the one that I feel that has merit. In reference to the people who live down the hill, I understand the concern and the way that the company who are going to be removing the existing foundations, that had nothing to do with us. The lot came with those foundations. They already explained to us that they extend a very strong wire mesh in the middle of the lot to be able to catch any debris that they can go down that hill. We will do absolutely the possible and the impossible to be sure that the neighbors are secure. In reference to the geological and that is not sustainable, I think I explained already, we have 3 licensed professional engineers dedicated at each of these items, saying that not only is it stable, if not the rock of that hill is at 3 feet deep from the dirt that can be observed, then they are absolutely positive that everything will be done in Quezon. No gigantic excavations are going to be done, and this is one of the reasons why we scaled the house down and trying to put it above ground and not inside the ground. And, well, I don't think I remember any. In reference to the enormous amount of variances that we are requesting, I'd like to re-emphasize that we are only requesting 2 variances. One is the extra square footage, and it was very well justified why by the design and justified by the planner who described that lots in that area of that size or even bigger, they are in the same square footage of what we are needed to do. It's not capricious, it's a need to make a comfortable home for any family. And, well, I forgot the rest. Sorry.
It's okay. So do you have anything else to say or rebut? Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But it's interesting to know that somebody said, because we live in this neighborhood and we are very happy to live in the neighborhood, but they are not happy that another family can live in the same neighborhood and enjoy the privilege to be in there. And another thing I want to say is I need the people to remember that the house was built in there and existed for 60, 70, or 80 years. And the foundations that are not the kind of work that we do today, they are still in the hill, and it didn't fall down. Then we should be a little bit more objective or more informed before we talk about technical aspects that we don't know nothing about it. Thank you so much. That's all that I need to say.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. What I will do now is close this public hearing and take the case under submission. And then I think we're going to take a couple-minute break to shift staff and get reorganized. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're back. The planning hearing officer hearing for September 24th, 2025. Our next item on the agenda is a density bonus review case number PDB-001629-2023. It is located at 236 North Central Avenue and 212 West California Avenue. It is an application for a density bonus, excuse me, a density bonus housing plan to construct a new 8-story, 655,000 square foot mixed-use building that includes 682 residential units. And the project would contain a total of 72 residential units affordable to very low and low-income households. The applicant is requesting 2 concessions and 4 waivers, I believe. So let me look and see whether there were comments from other city departments, and then I'll have the case planner do his presentation. So regarding this project, comments were received from a number of departments and divisions, and it looks like the comments were all standard, routine, and there were no major concerns, so I'm not going to go into them, but just all standard comments. So let's start with the presentation by the case planner, Mr. Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Kiesel. Just for the record, I think the case number is PDP-005412-2025. It's just a minor correction. I'm going to jump right into the presentation here and start off with the location. The project location consists of 2 sites zoned DSP Orange Central. Shaded in yellow on this slide here is the 3.7 acre site, which is bisected by an 18-foot wide public alley, which is proposed to be vacated. While not part of the density bonus application, as it does not include housing units, boxed in green is the 0.87 acre site, which is the former Sears Auto Center, that is available for purchase for potential demolition and development of a potential public park. The park site, once again, does not include any housing unit and is not part of this density bonus application, while in the design review application, it is included. So tonight, we're just talking about the density bonus housing plan, which takes place on the 2 sites highlighted in yellow. Here are photos of the existing conditions of the property. Consistent with the previous site, in yellow is the mixed-use site, which is the 3-story former Sears department store. Since March 2020, the building has been temporarily occupied by seasonal businesses. Also, mixed-use site consists of a approximately 164,000 square foot parking structure. The project proposes to demolish the former department store parking structure and the asphalt surface parking, and to construct as you mentioned in the description, an 8-story mixed-use building that consists of 666 apartment rental units and 16 live-work units, which also includes on the ground floor an approximately 1,515 square foot commercial space. The density bonus housing plan will include 14% reserved for very low, which equates to 67 units, and 1% of the baseline density baseline density units of 5 units, and this is going to be reserved for low-income households. With the 14% baseline units being reserved, the project is entitled of a total of 2 concessions, which the applicant has requested to, 1, deviate from the inclusionary unit requirement, which requires that the inclusionary units to be compatible in respect of square footage, size, unit mix, design, quality, workmanship. The inclusionary housing ordinance requires, for this project, a total of 4 units, studio units, I apologize, 4 studio units, 53 one-bedroom units, and 15 two-bedroom units. The applicant, as part of its concession, is to propose, in lieu of those units, and deviate with a total of 37 studios and 35 one-bedroom units. The second concession is for, to exceed the maximum FAR by 1.06, which they're proposing at 4.07 FAR, and the maximum for this property and zone is a maximum of 3.0 FAR. To briefly review the state law concerning density bonus concession findings, these concessions shall be granted, which the city bears the burden of proof in written findings to deny, based upon substantial evidence, if the concession does not result in identifiable or actual cost reductions, results in adverse impact to health, safety, or real property is listed on the California Register of Historic Resources, and would be contrary to state and federal law. Staff was not able to produce these denial findings and believe these concessions will result in identifiable and actual cost reductions. In order to provide affordable rents, the project requests to deviate from proportional units of inclusionary units because typically studio apartments have a lower cost construction cost due to their compact size, simpler layouts, which combine their living, bedroom, and kitchen areas. And also in regards to the FAR, the additional 1.07 will reduce costs for the applicant by providing affordable units, which are inherent in reduction costs by allowing the construction of a greater number of units in combined. So as a result, staff recommends approval of these concessions. In addition to the 2 concessions, the applicant's requesting a total of 4 waivers, which in summary, the first 2 are in regards to publicly accessible open space, or PAOS, which I might be referencing, and request that, 1, reduce the amount of PAOS by approximately 2,800 square feet, and the second is to deviate from the requirements of contiguous PAOS, which is required to be 85% contiguous. The applicant proposes to disperse the PAOS across 4 locations. And on this slide here is a visual representation of the PAOS being on the 4 corners of the site. Moving on to the third waiver is to reduce the amount of residential private open space. The DSP requires a minimum of 140 square foot private outdoor space per unit. The project proposes approximately 19,700 square feet and will be distributed across 394 units in the form of ground level patios and balconies, which several of these 50-foot square foot private outdoor space are provided amongst those 394 units, as opposed to the required 140. Depicted on the screen here are the typical floor plans with and without residential open space, which is shaded in green. That just kind of represents the typical floor plans throughout the building. Of course, without that shaded green area are those that lack the private outdoor space. And to the fourth and last waiver, building walls adjacent to the paseo may not be greater than 3 times the elevation height of the width of the paseo, which equates to 60 feet for the project's paseo width of being 20 feet. So any portion of the building above 60 feet must be set back a minimum of 20 feet above that 60 level height. And on this slide here, which is of the rendering, is oriented in the northwest direction, looking at Orange and the paseo, which visually shows the location of the building's DSP objective standards requiring the building to be stepped back at that location adjacent to the paseo. And without that visualization of what that massing that would be required, it shows the buildings proposed to not include that 20-foot step back. And once again, this is the location, what the building, what the objective design standards require to be adjacent to the paseo. And what they're proposing is, for the most part, most of the building would be straight up without that setback. Moving on to staff's analysis of the requested waivers. Waivers must demonstrate that the development standards requested to be reduced would physically prevent the building of the housing project. Also, the waiver would not cause specific adverse impact, health, safety, or the environment that can't be feasibly mitigated. The waiver won't, also, the additional findings are the waiver won't negatively affect the property of a property listed on the California Register or listed on the register. And the last finding is the waiver won't violate any state or federal laws. And to analyze the first two waivers, which are concerning PALS, as you can see on the screen, code compliant amount of PALS would require physically preventing the housing development from being constructed because, one, the PALS must be fully open to the sky, accessible to the public on the street level, and free of any building projections at any level, which limits the PALS at the ground level only, which strictly limits available ground level footprint devoted to building construction and proposed density. Second, further, without the request, it reduces the area for residential units, its amenities, and other critical building components. And the constrained footprint means fewer units can be built at the ground level, and vertical extensions become cost prohibitive due to increased engineering complexity, additional structural requirements, and more extensive labor costs and material costs. In regards to the contiguous requirement for 85% PAUS, the hardship is similar to waiver number 1, which is a reduced PAUS, where strict adherence to the development standard reduces the buildable area for housing and community feature. To fully comply with the PAUS standard, the paseo would need to be physically larger, either by removing or relocating the alley at the rear garage, the rear garage the alley, the garage entrance at the rear from the alley, or significantly reducing the floor area elsewhere of the building, which inevitably would impact the number of residential units, amenities, and other vital components for the development. While approximately the paseo's approximately 9,966 square feet, it is bisected by the alley providing a rear entrance. It is technically two separate components, which is 486 square feet and 5,160 square feet. If these two were connected, it would represent approximately 73 contiguous PAUS. So I'm just demonstrating where the open space or the publicly accessible open spaces are and how the alley and the rear entrance bisect that area, which is almost contiguous. Moving on to the analysis for the third waiver. Residential private outdoor space are provided for certain units, particularly those facing public streets where balconies have been incorporated into the building's elevation. However, many interior facings do not include private patios or balconies, largely due to the constraints and design considerations. To fully comply, each unit would need to be improved with either a patio for the ground level units or balconies at the upper floor units. And to comply, significant alterations to the building design would be required. For the upper units, balconies would need to be extended beyond the building's existing footprints, impacting the architectural modulation, massing, design, or even it may require these balconies to project over the publicly accessible open space, which is not allowed by the DSP's objective design standards. This would compromise interior layouts, reduce livable space, and affect overall unit functionality and marketability. And last, to satisfy the building setback of the building on the upper floors above the 64-foot height adjacent to the paseo would require substantial reduction in unit depth, compromising interior layouts, livable space, and adversely affect overall unit functionality. Given these constraints, strict adherence to the setback requirement would require physically and economically preclude the construction of the housing development at the proposed density level. Therefore, the requested waiver is essential to support the project's design, maintain the integrity of the site plan, and achieve the intended housing goals. Overall, staff recommends approval of the density bonus housing plan with the conditions prescribed in the draft findings. Prior to concluding the presentation, 3 comment letters were received from Ms. Francesca Smith, Mr. Damian Sullivan, and a letter from Lazo Drury LLP, which have been provided to the hearing officer for their consideration and also placed into the file for administrative record. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. I do have one question. So the publicly accessible open space, they're requesting a waiver from it not being, with 85% contiguous?
Yes.
So, I'm not sure if I understood this correctly. If there wasn't a road that sort of bisected the Paseo, if the Paseo just continued, would they need it?
They still would need it, but it just demonstrates what the project does propose. As you can see on the screen here, combine these two areas, it would still fall short.
Did you say 74%?
It would be at 74% as
Okay.
opposed to the required 85.
Okay,
Correct.
okay. And what exactly is that road that bisects it? Is it a driveway or, yeah, what is it?
So to answer your question here, it's the existing alley, 236, which provides rear access into the building. Portions of the alley to accommodate this project are going to be vacated. So the alley, while being partially vacated, it will provide access into the rear of the building. Also, portions of the alley are being reconfigured to connect with Orange Street in the east-westerly direction and will be adjacent to the Paseo.
Okay, so, like, if I were driving in that area, the only way I would get into that access and bisect the two Paseos is if I was actually going on the site, if I was a resident or a guest. It's not like a street.
Well, the alley is still public right-of-way, but it provides a rear access into the ground-level garage, which also leads to a subterranean garage. And I can pull this up on the plans. I'll pull up on the screen. So just give me a brief moment here. I appreciate everyone's patience. The plans are pretty lengthy. There's about 100 and something pages, and I'm trying to locate it. So on the screen here, it just shows a general layout. On the left is California, which is the north side of the project. And at the rear is the alley, which provides a rear access. And you can see from this diagram here, from the alley, you can, once again, enter the building. Also, it can turn right, which goes towards Orange Street, which is at the top of this plan here. And that alley going toward Orange is part of the proposed reconfiguration of Alley 239.
Does it, does that alley end midway? Is it abandoned on the lower half? I'm not sure how better to explain it. Does it like T? Is that the issue?
Yes. Okay. So the alley will. Let me provide another graphic. If you give me a moment, do you have any further questions? And I will answer that question and pull up that.
No, I think I just have questions for you related to this component.
Just give me a quick moment. So I'm going to pull up slides from the alley vacation, which was earlier presented to the Planning Commission. So this demonstrates of the project site. Alley 239, it extends from California to Wilson, and that's going to be from the north to south direction. The the requested partial alley vacation is demonstrated here in red. And what they're proposing to do is to vacate that portion in red once again, and then reconfigure the alley to connect to Orange Street in the east-west location. So access will be provided from Wilson Avenue via the alley into the rear of the building, and also has access, the alley has access to Orange Street. So I think this graphic here would have done a way better job than I would explain verbally, but I do appreciate your patience on that.
Okay. So the access way that bisects the publicly accessible open space really will only be used by the people that either live in this project or are visiting or are tenants or patrons of that small commercial space that is proposed?
Just to clarify here, there is a reconfigure alley, which is shown in blue on the screen here.
Yeah.
Which is 25, that's for the public, right? And adjacent to that, there's another 20-foot wide, publicly accessible open space, which is in the form of a paseo. As in its name, it's going to be publicly accessible for anybody.
Right.
Paseo.
Right, right. But what I'm getting at is to go from one end of the paseo to the other end of the paseo, you're going to have to cross that.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
That is, automobiles that use that are only going to need to use that to access, or to, if I was a resident, if I was a guest of the resident, if I was a tenant of one of the commercial spaces, or if I was a patron of the commercial spaces, I wouldn't, as of course, drive across the paseo to get somewhere else in the city.
You wouldn't.
I would not need to. I couldn't. It would just be to access the site.
Correct.
Okay, okay. Are there any sort of improvements proposed where that access way crosses the paseo? Like to slow traffic, to, protect pedestrians, that sort of thing? That would, sort of maybe visually, the paseo would connect even though there would be something that intersects it?
I'm not that aware of, but we definitely can take that in consideration and work with the Public Works Department to demarc that, that there would be a cross path that way.
So it's a public,
Yeah. If you would like to open up the public forum, we do have
Sure.
Mark Berry here who would like to.
sure. Let's open up the public hearing. Yeah.
Very community development. There will be a controlled access to the garage, so they'll, like the other mixed-use projects you see, there'll be either a rolling gate or an arm, so if you're driving, you'll see a visual barrier.
Okay. Okay. You know what? Why don't we hold on a second for you? I don't think I have any more questions at this point. You'll be able to also clarify. And I just realized I only have half the questions here that I was going to ask you. So I need to take a real quick break and get the other half. I'm sorry? Yeah. Well, it's 3 copies of this. Right. I guess,
So if someone's traversing the paseo.
right.
Crosswalk to ensure safe pedestrian access.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a reminder, if we do have crosstalk with the audience, I know you didn't open up the public forum, or you said save that for another time. Just as a reminder, please approach the podium so that GTV, for the sake
yeah,
of the
that's
viewers
true.
of the audience, they can hear it, but I understand.
Yeah, let me just take a quick, I don't even know that we need to take a break, because I just need to get my other sheet of paper.
Okay, so we'll just take like a one.
Unofficial break.
Correct, okay. I just chose the wrong shirt.
All right. Sorry about that. Mr. Joe, you mentioned the letters that we received, so I have looked at them. Let's call up, let's continue the public hearing and call up Chris Burt.
Good morning. I'm Chris Burt with Cox Castle Nicholson. I'm land use counselor for the applicant, here representing the applicant. I want to thank Mr. Joe for the excellent presentation, very clear and concise. Generally, we agree with all the staff's assessment of the project, its findings, and its recommendation. There were a couple things I wanted to touch on. They relate mostly to some of the findings, the draft findings in the report. With respect to finding number two, with respect to the conditions of the report. With respect to condition number 6, as noted in the staff report, one of the incentives concessions is to deviate from the proportionality requirements in terms of bedroom number. Condition number 6 has something to the effect of the unit type, size, and location shall be subject to the approval of the housing division. Again, type and size are going to be related to that incentive concession. So I just wanted to clarify that, right? Because if you look in the staff report, the number of units that are going to be affordable are demarcated as studios and 1-bedroom units in number.
Right.
So the size and type are already dictated by that incentive concession. And then condition number 13 acknowledges that. So there's just a little bit of an inconsistency between condition number 6 and condition number 13. So just something to look at.
Okay.
And then condition number 15. So this project is exempt from CEQA, utilizing a relatively recently enacted statutory exemption pursuant to AB 130, which was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor in late June. It expands an infill housing exemption. One of the components, so the project meets all the criteria to be exempt. One of the adjacent components of that bill is that certain projects that avail themselves of that exemption need to pay prevailing wage and adhere to other labor requirements. The threshold for that outside of San Francisco is whether or not a project exceeds 85 feet in height from grade. Okay, that's the language in AB 130 in the Public Resources Code section. The Public Resources Code section does not define how to measure height, right? But remember, this is a state law. The condition number 15 utilizes the city's definition of height to measure height and decide whether or not the project needs to comply with those labor requirements. Again, AB 130 is silent itself. This is a state law, and so the CBC should be looked to in terms of how you measure height. So just as an example, this project is,
What's
CBC is
CBC?
California Building Code, which has both measures for grade and height. And so the California Building Code likewise establishes different types of construction, which must adhere to certain standards. This is a type 3 building. type 3 buildings are limited by the California Building Code to a maximum height of 85 feet. And again, that is consistent with the measurement of the California Building Code. So my only request to ensure that we are consistent with state law is that condition number 15 be revised to eliminate the reference to height as defined by the municipal code, because you would imagine a situation where municipalities and jurisdictions throughout the state have different measurements for defining height, which will have an impact on whether projects have to, if height measurements per local jurisdictions are applied, number one, it could have a disparate impact on similarly sized projects throughout the state, some paying prevailing wage and some not. It could also open the door to jurisdictions, modifying their definition of height to push more projects into that definition and have to pay prevailing wage, which ultimately kills a lot of projects. So I just request that that language be struck from that particular condition.
Okay.
And for staff, just to chime in, staff acknowledges that the height and grade for the zoning code may be very specific on how we define what height and grade is defined. It's correct by Mr. Burt here that the state is not very clear in how they define it. We're just acknowledging how the zoning code would define height and grade, but ultimately, the applicant, it's going to be the developer's advocate or the applicant or whoever is going to be getting this project forward. They're going to be responsible to adhere to AB 130 and its provisions of prevailing wages. So we want them to, and we want them to adhere to it. We can definitely amend it so that this is consistent with AB 130 and its labor standards.
Thank you for that clarification. So yeah, the applicant, of course, was going to comply with state law. We're required to. The condition number 15 is drafted as 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph, I'm paraphrasing here, says the labor standards of the Public Resources Code shall be adhered to, right? Which is state law related to the 85-foot number. It's the second paragraph that inserts the local definition of height that we would like struck. We're happy with the first paragraph is fine because it references the need to comply with state law, which of course we're obligated to do anyway.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Do you have any other presentation?
I don't. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sure.
Thank you so much. You want me to-
Yeah, why don't you just stay?
Okay.
I'm going to ask the questions, and then we've got 2 other speaker cards, so we'll go from there. Okay, so you've got a project with 682 residential units, and 72 of those units are inclusionary, so affordable to very low or low-income households. Is that?
That's correct.
That's correct? Okay. What are the size ranges of each type of unit? Like, what's an average studio size? What's an average 1-bedroom size? What's an average 2-bedroom size? I think you only have 1 3-bedroom, if any.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know, I'm not the design guy. I don't know the specific square footages of each of the sizes.
Okay.
Mr. Kiesel, what I can do is I can pull up the applicant's plans.
Yeah, we have-
Go ahead and
should have
move. There is a graphic that, it was actually the floor plans I showed with and without the private balconies. And at the bottom, there's notes of what percentage of the 666 or the 16 live-work units, and it'll prescribe like what the percentage ratio of these types of units are there. So if you want,
I'm at this point, I'm looking for just what's the average studio size? What's the average 1-bedroom size? What's the average 2-bedroom size?
I can help fill in that
is that-
gap according to the submitted plans, which
Okay.
have been
Okay.
attached to the agenda.
Okay.
While you're continuing, if you can, continue with the questions, and I'll try to get that information for you.
Sure. Related to that question, are those size averages or ranges, are they larger or smaller than similar projects?
Again, I would have to imagine that they are consistent with similar projects.
Sure.
The applicant, Trammell Crow Realty, Trammell Crow Residential, does a variety of projects of similar size and scale throughout the state, and also having a similar unit mix. And they've certainly worked out a formula where the units themselves are marketable in terms of square footage and amenities, and I think that this project is similarly designed.
Okay. One of the concessions requested is regarding an increase in the FAR, the floor area for the project, from 3.0 to 4.07. Explain how that request results in identifiable and actual cost reductions for this, for the affordable housing. How does the increase in requested floor area enable this development to provide affordable housing?
Sure. So I'm happy to answer that. I'll answer it in two ways. First, I should note that the applicant, when it submitted its list of incentives, concessions, and waivers, the FAR deviation was requested as a waiver, not an incentive and concession.
Okay.
Waivers do not have the same criteria for cost reductions.
Right.
Ultimately, we agree with staff's assessment, though, that even if you characterize it as an incentive and concession, that it does result in real and identifiable cost reductions. Because if because the building, as staff noted, if we construct, it allows for construction of efficiencies in terms of overall design. The number, if you had to increase, if you limited the, I'm sorry. So they result in the ability to provide the affordable units, which then offset the cost of constructing the market rate units, which ultimately has a reducing effect on the overall construction cost of the project.
So that extra floor area allows you to build more units, which then,
more affordable units.
well, more affordable units, but more units just in general.
Correct.
And the rent from those additional units offsets the lesser rent that you take in from the affordable units.
That's right, the cost of providing the affordable units.
Okay, all right. So the other concession that you requested was to not comply with section 30.35.030A of the Glendale Municipal Code. And that has to do with sort of the characteristics of the inclusionary affordable units. It requires units to be comparable to non-inclusionary units with respect to square footage, size, unit mix, design quality, workmanship, and finishes. It also requires that the inclusionary units be dispersed throughout the project. How specifically are you not meeting this requirement?
Only the first two components.
Only
with
the
respect
first
to
two.
Proportionality of bedrooms and size. The fixtures, the design, everything else is akin to the market rate units. There's no discrepancy, and the units will be dispersed.
Okay, so in terms of design quality, workmanship, and finishes, the inclusionary units will mimic the non-inclusionary units, the
That's
market
correct.
rate.
Yes, that's correct.
And dispersed throughout the development. Have you worked with housing on that yet?
I understand where, as a condition of approval of this project, of this approval here, we will work with housing. It's interesting. I think one of the things we want to talk about with housing is there's a recent letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development that says under state law, you don't have to pick, unit A1, for example, to be the deed restricted affordable unit. What you can do is commit to deed restricting the number, and then the deed restricted units can be floating. And that actually helps provide housing for people, because imagine a situation where you have a deed restricted unit where a household qualifies as very low income, but next year they don't, right? So if they no longer qualify, you have to kick them out of the unit. Whereas if you can make that a market rate unit and you have a similar unit elsewhere that's vacant, you can deed restrict that unit without having to kick a family out of its unit. right? So you still have the same number of deed restricted units, you can just move them around, right? And
Okay.
so the conditions here would mandate that that number of affordable units at the affordability levels as conditioned here would be made available. But specific units themselves are not required under state law. So we would just work that into the housing plan to make sure that, again, that number of units is deed restricted, but the individual units might change to accommodate the situation where you don't want to necessarily
They're
kick out
not
a
fixed
household.
units. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll let maybe housing deal with that. All right.
If we're still on the topic of units.
Great. Okay.
On the screen here, this is from one of the title pages of the project data sheet. Right here, it provides the unit mix, identifying live, work, studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. It provides the area, the percentage of the 682 units, the count of each type of units of the 682 units, and then the cumulative square footage of what each type represents. So for example, here, the live work unit, there's 16 of them. They're going to be 1,000 square feet. It equates to 16,000 square feet in total of the total area of the building, and so forth as you go down from studios to 1 bedrooms to 2 bedrooms and 3 bedroom.
Okay. And so it looks like, in generally, 2 bedrooms, roughly 8 to 1,000 square feet, 1 bedroom, 600 to 800 square feet. So it looks like they're pretty standard sizes. So just, I'm assuming, and I think you've already mentioned this, these sort of average sizes are for the project in general as well as the inclusionary units.
Correct.
So if we just took out the inclusionary units, those numbers up there would not be lower.
No, because the inclusionary units, as you recall, are not identified yet. So we couldn't actually do that math.
Well, that's true too.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. All right. So if the inclusionary and the non-inclusionary units are basically identical, size, amenities, et cetera, how does altering the proportionality provide cost reductions? What you're requesting is, well, let me step back. Our code requires that that there be rough proportionality between the range of units and what percentage are affordable or not. So, if in a particular project, 20% of the housing units are 2-bedroom, then 20% of the affordable units would need to be 2-bedroom. As an example, what you're proposing is not to go by that proportionality and provide a lot more studio and 1-bedroom units as a proportion than 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom. So how does that actually provide a cost reduction? Because the units are the same. You've got this development.
Yes, but to make the project work, right, from a financial perspective, you would have to not just, if you were to deed restrict the number of units consistent with the code, and the numbers are themselves in the staff report, staff kindly did that math, it would be 4 studio units, 53 1-bedroom units, and 15 2-bedroom units. For example, to deed restrict those 2-bedroom units, you would have to construct additional units beyond what the project is already requesting, which would in probably larger scale units themselves, such that that would ultimately increase costs associated with the project and might in fact push the project into a different type of construction because you would almost have to add another level. Right? So by virtue of limiting the size and scope of the affordable units, you can incorporate those within the design of this project. If you had to do the proportionality requirements, you would have to add additional units to make the project still work from a financial perspective, and adding those units would increase costs.
Well, I guess, I mean, I guess I'm coming at it from a, you're proposing something now. Here it is. It's got 682 units, 72 affordable, and how many one-bedroom, how many two-bedroom, how many studios? Sorry.
Are you asking what the code
Yeah.
requires or what they propose?
No, what they're proposing.
37 studios,
Okay.
493 one-bedroom units,
493?
493,
Okay,
135 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom unit.
okay. So, I mean, you've got this overall development with 682 units, 72 affordable, 37 studio, 493 one, 135 two, 1 three-bedroom. That's kind of the fixed thing. How does moving some of the affordables from the two-bedroom to the studio, let's say, how does that provide a cost reduction if you've got this fixed building already?
So I guess I'm trying to explain it in a kind of two-step way. Accommodating the code's proportionality requirement makes the project not work from a financial perspective. So to make that a project that could meet that standard work, you would then have to increase the overall number of units in the project itself, which would also trigger a higher density bonus. So you'd have to include more affordable units, and would then require expanding the ultimate building itself, likely with respect to height, which pushes it into a completely different construction type, which pushes costs significantly higher.
Okay, so,
Secondarily,
yeah, go
studios
on.
themselves are relatively uniform in terms of ability to construct, right? In terms
Yep.
of overall costs. And so incorporating studios as opposed to more two-bedroom units would ultimately have a cost-reducing effect itself just by virtue of the construction efficiencies in constructing studio units as opposed to larger units.
well, I guess that's where I'm still, the cost of constructing a inclusionary studio unit is the same as constructing a market rate studio unit, correct?
Yes.
So,
Mr. Kiesel, if I can kind of go over what the finding for, the finding is the incentive or concession does not result in identifiable or actual cost reductions, and that to provide affordable housing costs or for rents for the targeted units as specified, right? So I think Mr. Burt is trying to get at, and I kind of shed some light on here, that in order to provide affordable rents, they're requesting to deviate from proportionality, reducing the amount of two bedrooms. They're going to replace them with studios and one bedrooms, and
Right.
depending on whatever the staff report had identified what all the deltas are for the housing types.
yeah.
So because inherently studio apartments have lower construction costs for its size, simpler layouts, types of amenities or sizes, it's going to be smaller than a two-bedroom or that three-bedroom or whatever it was. In order to provide affordable rents for targeted people of studios and one bedrooms, shifting that there, it provides it for affordable rents to studio one bedrooms for a larger number of individuals and smaller households. It basically, what we're getting at, rather than construction costs, it helps them and I'm kind of defining and reading from what the findings exactly say at the tail end of that section there, is cost reductions or for rents of the targeted units of this project. So by shifting it by the housing or bedroom type composition, it's able to help the project have cost reductions to provide affordable rents. And
So I'll read the code section, and maybe this is helpful. Thank you so much for that. So the code section says, the concession, an agency may deny an incentive or concession if it does not result in identifiable and actual cost reductions to provide for affordable housing costs or for rent to the targeted units to be set as specified in subdivision C. So subdivision C is the affordable units, right? So for housing, for actual cost reductions to provide for affordable housing costs, right? And again, here, the cost of to provide the affordable housing with respect to the project is providing the required number of units, right? The required number of affordable units under the state density bonus law.
Okay.
To provide a proportional number of units consistent with the local code, the project itself would have to construct more units, which itself increases costs. Secondarily, by providing the code says to provide for affordable housing costs or for rents for the targeted units. So the project does not pencil with proportionality, meaning that the project itself would not be constructed if it had to construct those proportional units, meaning that the targeted rents would not be provided because the units themselves would not be provided at all.
Okay, so and basically you're supposing that, you know, the formula that the city has where, you know, you've got to provide proportionality for each unit just doesn't work. So if you wanted to provide, or with your current proposal, providing more studio and one bedroom, why don't you just convert some of the one bedroom and two bedroom down to, or market rate studio and one bedroom down to studio and one bedroom to make that proportional again? And
Because then
the formula doesn't work.
Yes.
Still.
Yes, it doesn't work.
You can't,
Anytime
yeah,
you
but
tug at one number, right, there's some other action that has to be done, whether it's increasing the number of units in the project itself or increasing the size of overall units, right, which again would add to construction costs, right? To the extent larger units, affordable units are required to be provided consistent with the city's code, that does not work with the current design and number of units as proposed, fundamentally. And the units themselves, the affordable units, would just not be provided because the project could not go forward.
Okay.
So the affordable rents under this code, right?
Right.
Would not be provided.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, that was the other question. So, reducing the number of one and two bedroom units to correspond with what you're wanting to do with the inclusionary units and make them proportional would actually allow you to, you would not have you would not need as much FAR. You could reduce the FAR, but then you're contending that that wouldn't pencil out. It wouldn't pencil out
Rents are
down
not gonna
here.
be- yeah.
It wouldn't pencil out up here.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, so how does the waiver request requiring reducing the amount of publicly accessible open space have the effect of physically precluding the housing development at the density that you need?
Yeah, so I just want to, I suppose it's like a general background concept under the density bonus law, right? You have a zoning code that has standards that are, relative to the density contemplated under the zone, right? So height limitations typically reflect the density contemplated by the zoning, setbacks, right? So you can construct a building at the density conceptualized, right, while adhering to those development standards. If you use the density bonus law to push up density, the development standards that are otherwise applicable to a base density of, let's say here, 100 units, an acre, can no longer fit to accommodate a project that has a 50% density bonus, right? So application of all of the development standards for which we are seeking waivers, including open space, if we had to provide that level of open space, it would push out units, ultimately.
Okay, I think I get it. Same question, though, with the required amount of contiguously publicly accessible open space. You know, that requirement doesn't have anything to do with the amount, it just says the amount needs to be together, needs to be, you know, it can't be in desperate areas of the site. How does that influence not being able to construct at the density? Because you're not constraining anything,
Well, I guess I would say that I think that the publicly accessible open space requirements all relate to one another.
Okay.
It's a threshold question, right? Because, you know, the amount of publicly required public open space relates to the amount of contiguous open space which you have to provide. Right?
Yeah.
So if you are, you know, not achieving the publicly accessible open space requirement alone, right, then achieving the contiguous component of it is also very difficult. Now, I should also note that just under state law, with respect to waivers, the presumption is that the waivers requested are appropriate. And here, the design of the project is a wrap component project with parking in the middle. And that wrap component just doesn't lend itself to large conglomerated spaces of open space. Ultimately, the design, right? Again, you could have a scenario where you have a consolidated open space on one of the sides, let's say. But to accommodate the same unit mix at the same proportion as proposed by the project, those units have to go somewhere. And where do they go? They have to go up, right? So again, we're now pushed into a different construction type, which costs significantly more because it requires metal instead of sticks on podium, and it makes the project infeasible at the density proposed with the affordable units proposed.
Okay. Do you know what percentage of units include private open space, and what's the average size of those spaces?
I think the percentage was in the staff report.
Was it?
I believe it was.
Yes, let me get that number for you. So, on average, the private outdoor space is going to be 50 square feet, and
Okay.
the requirement is 140 per unit. Of the 682 units, 394 units will have private outdoor space, which
So
means the opposite would
roughly
be
half.
272 lack that private outdoor space.
So more than half. More than half have private outdoor space.
Yes.
That is,
It will have private outdoor space, but it is below the 140, which is
Yeah.
required too. So they do provide some.
although refresh my memory, in the DSP, does each unit have to have open space, or is it just you get the number and then it's divvied up however it
There are
boards
options to be
fast?
provide where if there's excess common outdoor, or if there's excess open space, but they don't provide. So they're actually requesting to reduce it. So it could be dispersed in many different ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then finally, just two couple similar questions from what I asked before, you're not, in roughly 50% of the units, you're not providing the private open space. And, specifically, how does that preclude you from providing the housing, from building the housing development per the density that is requested?
Sure.
needed?
And again, I come back to the first comment, right, where these development standards, including the private open space requirements, were conceptualized for a certain density project. We are going past that density, right? So we're adding more units, which theoretically, if you were at 100 units, you could meet that requirement for providing that level of private open space because you are providing a lower density. When all of a sudden you have the confines of a building size, I mean, I know we're going beyond that building size, but you have to remove certain things to be able to comprise the, number one, the number of units, but also the unit mix and the sizes that you're proposing to make your project work. Here, to provide private open space for each unit, for instance, would require shrinking those units such that you could replace interior floor area with private open space, which doesn't make which would ultimately affects the rents of the project itself.
Okay. And then finally, the waiver on the building wall adjacent to the Paseo.
I think that one's relatively straightforward.
Basically, that would require you eliminating some floor area, and that eliminated floor area would either reduce the number of units or make those units smaller, which then influence the financial
Correct.
picture.
That's absolutely
Okay.
correct.
All right. All right, that was it for now.
Thank you.
All right, we have two speakers. Let's hear from Lisa Morris first.
And while Lisa Morris is approaching the podium, please do. We do have one caller, so just to let the
thank
hearing
you.
officer know that there's one caller on the
Thank
line.
you.
Yep. No, I'm just pointing
That's
out,
fine.
please speak. I'm just letting the hearing officer know we do have someone on hold, that's all.
Good morning, Ms. Morris.
Good morning. Glad to meet you in person finally, actually, because I know your name with projects that we do up in La Crescenta.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so I want to address a couple of things, really. I'm going to concentrate on the historical feature of the series as well as the mass of the project. Those are my concerns. I think you may know, or I don't know how much detail you know, but this building, as it looks right now, the Sears, looks like it should be torn down. But what's hidden underneath that facade is the original 1936 building that was built and designed by the famed architects Nimmons, Carr, and Wright as the prototype for what would be the architectural blueprint for Sears stores all across America. It was a company that helped put Glendale on the map as a major center of business and commerce in Southern California. And the Glendale leaders at the time later gave existing businesses like Sears orders to modernize their appearance, and Sears hired a company to build a new exterior by walling off and covering up the whole sections of the original 1930s streamlined modern features using gravel-coated cover-up panels. They essentially boxed in the original Sears building because it was cheaper than actual renovations. And underneath that is your 1930s glass block tower and the first floor display windows and entrance and second floor outside mezzanine. At the time the project was presented a couple years ago, the council members did ask for historic aspects of the property to be investigated, but unfortunately, AB 130 came along before that could ever be completed. So I kind of feel like, well, that's not fair, you know. And I wouldn't want to destroy something that's so significant to the city of Glendale. And what you've got here is a huge, massive 8-story, 682-unit mixed-use building taking up nearly entirely city block. I cannot support the concessions to exceed the maximum floor area ratio, nor can I support 3 of the 4 waivers being requested, which is reducing the required amount of publicly accessible open space, reducing the required amount of residential private outdoor open space. I mean, you're going from 95,000 down to 19,000. That's a huge reduction. Eliminating the required 20-foot setback for portions of the building wall over 60 feet, which we talked about having to do with the Paseo. I always question claims that the project would not be financially viable unless these concessions and waivers are granted. And I always say, prove it. How do we know that? These requirements were originally established for a reason. By maintaining them, the building won't be quite as massive and overbearing to those walking by. I cannot speak to the finders of the Historic Resources report done by Teresa Grimes, which was in the staff report, because I got this too late and I didn't know about that, so I haven't had time to review that. But I still stand on the original history of the Sears building, and I got 30 minutes left. Okay. You can incorporate that into the design like the Academy Museum did with the Macy's store at Wilshire and Fairfax. I think that would be a real gem for the city, and I would consider that valuable. Okay. As to the elimination of balconies, couldn't you still have them on all the units, but more interior? And I agree they shouldn't hang over.
Your time is up. You need to wrap up, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, and the park was supposed to be part of the project. I don't think it's right that now they're eliminating it, because that would have added open space as well. And so I urge you to consider these public comments when considering approval. And I think that's it, kind of shortened in a nutshell.
Thank you. All right, Beth Brooks.
Hi, thank you very much. I live a couple of blocks away, and this is my first time at a public hearing. I went to the Planning Commission or committee the last time, where it was shown that the developer actually ignored all of the requests from the city council and instead proposed this monstrosity that I liken to the projects, because I'm from New York, so I know what those look like, giant monstrosity. And here we are again, where I guess it's new to me, but people tell me this is sort of standard, this kind of bait and switch, that they present one thing, they have years to present it and to work it out, and then they come in at the last minute and say, no, we can't do that because it's just too expensive. How did you not figure that out? How did you not know what the requirements were over all these years? This doesn't make sense unless you completely ignored them from the beginning and you were just trying to request a waiver. The only studio apartment, what you were saying made sense. You just switch it up. You just say, hey, you get those 2 bedrooms instead of it being market rate, and you get those 1 bedrooms. I don't understand what he was even talking about. It didn't even make sense to me. Mathematically, that did not make sense. You just take the 72 units, where the same 72 units required, that have to mirror, the market rate units. The only people who get a studio are the affordable units. They actually took away, they don't get any 2 bedrooms, so no families. They said, you know what, you're low income, we're gonna cram you into a 540 square foot apartment. There are no market rate studios in there. So they basically did that, which I find extremely discriminatory, I'll be perfectly honest. I also think what Francesca said about, let's prove it. I heard a lot of fear-based comments. Well, if we don't do this, we can't do that. Oh, really? Where's the proof that you can't do that? Maybe your profits will be less, but you can build it. especially regarding the switching around of the affordable units and making them what the requirements are supposed to be. I read some crazy things in there. It said the additional density will in fact promote the city's health and safety and that there will be greater housing opportunities for low-income houses. How does adding low-income housing promote safety and health? It doesn't. It's an illogical statement. There were quite a number of illogical statements there. If we don't do this, we don't build affordable housing. Not absolutely untrue, especially when you have 682 units and you're only talking about 72. And the reduction from 95,000 square feet to whatever it was, 12,000 is absolutely ridiculous. This is a monstrosity that the city council said you must break it up into blocks so that it visually opens things up. It needs to be more airy. This is an 8-story project that the city council said should not look like that. And it still looks like that. They haven't made changes to that, and they probably don't intend to. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Do we still have that one caller?
We have 2 callers. I'm going to be
Callers.
calling up the first one.
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Reese Peterson, you're on the air with the planning hearing officer. Do you hear us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Joe. And I apologize for not being in attendance today. I'm at home sick for the wellness of everybody. I figured it was best to not attend. My name is Reese Pedersen. I am an ownership and applicant representative for this project. I would like to thank Chris Burt for his explanations today and going through the project. A few items that I would like to discuss is that the concessions and waivers that are requested for this project are to allow the project to move forward. There currently are 0 affordable housing units on the project site today. There are 0 market rate units on the project site today. And as everybody knows, this property has been a public nuisance for the city and the safety of the surrounding community as it continues to attract vandalism and individuals trying to find a place to live on the vacated building or around the vacated building. Secondly, I'd like to address that this hearing is not for the historic component or applicability of the project, but I encourage everybody to please review the analysis and reports that were provided to the city. There has been a significant amount of time spent studying this building, and it is clearly shown that this project does not have any applicability for a historic component, and the city's own, it is not listed on the city's own historic resources list as potential or an applicant. It was never discussed anywhere as a historic building. And then lastly, I'd like to address a comment about bait and switch. There has not been any bait and switch on this project. The applicant has continued to try to include the public park as part of the overall project. And unfortunately, there has not been a way for us to do so. And we continue to ask the city to find ways to make it available, whether we dedicate it to the city or whether it's purchased by the city. There has been 0 bait and switch. The applicant from day one for the last 3-4 years of me working on this has been committed to providing the public with a public park, and we view it as an instrumental part of the project. And one last item I'd like to address is the design of the project. This project has gone through extensive design iteration from the comments received from city staff and also city council. There has been many variations of the building, and the building that you're looking at today is years of changes, modulation, height adjustment, material adjustment to address the concerns. We've also addressed the city's concerns about open space and tried to provide that public park. I know that I'm out of time, but thank you for the hearing today, and I look forward to the success of this project.
Great, thank you. We have one more caller?
We do. Just give me a quick moment here. Mr. Damian, you're on the air with the planning hearing officer. You're on the meeting.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I appreciate very much the opportunity to speak to you, and I also appreciate your important examination and attention to this particular project, because of all the projects that have happened in recent years and all of the projects that are on the slate to happen, I believe it was the Design Review Board member, I believe it was Art Simonian, who said this is going to be probably the most consequential project that this city will see probably for the next decade. It's one of the largest ones to ever come along. And those same Design Review Board members did actually use the phrase bait and switch. There are many members of the community, myself included, who believe that this has been a very extraordinarily manipulative and disingenuous project with a public park that you can Google. It was written about almost 3 years ago, was presented, and everybody in the entire city, every resident and community member that knows about this thinks we're getting this park, which at the last minute has just been magically disappeared. I mean, in my opinion, this has every aspect, from the public space allocations to the removal of 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units away from the low-income and affordable housing. It all has the appearance of, to me, of somebody trying to make the maximum amount of profit that you can possibly make, using the rationale that it's just not feasible if you alter it otherwise. It is feasible to alter it otherwise. You can take less profit and you can do the designs that you were told to do by the city council 2 years ago, and you can change the floor space and change how you build it, make less profit, but make it more ethically and morally correct for people. You're asking for, we have codes, and then everybody often says, why have codes when we don't ever live by them? And everybody, if you're manipulating it, you know, the AB 130 and the density bonus laws are so often exploited. I believe this is a classic example of why people are cynical. 95,000 square feet being what they're supposed to make, and they're offering 19,000. That's incorrigibly, it's bankrupt, in my opinion. It's morally, and as a city, we're giving the wrong message to all other developers. Come do this, and we will greenlight it. And to have really just morally incorrect, in my opinion, to take what is supposed to be the whole purpose of this density bonus, I mean, is to help and provide housing for low-income, disadvantaged people. And you are literally saying, no, the message you're giving is we're going to take away the units that you're supposed to get, and the quote-unquote rich people can have 2 bedrooms. It's a caste system, in my opinion, that you're setting up. We're taking away all the benefits that we're supposed to be doing with this whole project in the first place. And they should make it correct and do what they're supposed to do. If they have 2-bedroom for you, 2-bedroom for you. Please, you should not approve this, because its messaging is horrible for what it says our city's mission is, and how we handle people who manipulate the process. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more callers?
We do not have any other calls.
Okay, so let's circle back around with the applicant, who has 5 minutes to rebut.
You know, I don't think I have anything in detail to add. I appreciate Reese calling in. You know, he directly addressed some of the comments, particularly related to Parkland. We're still actively working with the city to try and incorporate that park as a component of the project and dedicate it to the city. We're just going through that process. With respect to, you know, the historic nature of the project site of the Sears, you know, that was investigated both as part of a citywide study and then independently at a project level by a certified historic resources consultant, both of whom concluded that the features of the Sears have been severely impacted and that it's not a historic resource. And aside from that, you know, I'm happy to answer any additional specific questions, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. I don't believe I have any more questions. I think I asked them initially. So I'm going to close the hearing and take the case under submission. And we do not have any other items on the agenda today. So the PIHO hearing is officially closed, and thank you for your participation.